All right, let's talk to Rami Khouri, a distinguished fellow at the American University of Beirut, joining us live now from Miami. Good to speak to you, Rami. Obviously, hearing there for Zina Khodr talking about, the Christian villages that are caught up in the middle of this. Is there a fear at all that what Israel is doing, or perhaps part of its tactic, is for there to be civil war, as we have seen previously in Lebanon?
Yes, Sarah, there is a fear, and it's based on a widespread assumption, which I share and most analysts who know the region share, that what Israel is trying to do is to provoke tension and discord and maybe even fragmentation in Lebanon based on ethnic and sectarian and geographic groups, so Sunni, Shia, Christian, Armenian, Druze, North, South. They've tried to go into Lebanon 6 times in the last 40 years with their armed forces. They've occupied it once for 18 years. They've tried to have a zone in the south with a surrogate Lebanese army that they funded. They've tried every possible tactic to make sure that Lebanon is not an arena of conflict with Israel, and they failed. Even before Hezbollah existed, you had the Palestinian groups and Lebanese nationalist and leftist groups in southern Lebanon who were taking potshots at Israel. So this is not just a Hezbollah Shia thing. Israel is not accepted widely in the region because of the aggression it has committed against the Palestinians and other people, Lebanese included, and continues to commit. And therefore, this is what they're trying to do now is a desperate move, which combines 2 things. One is to follow up the Gaza situation that they perpetuated. They did the Dahi doctrine years ago, where they just laid flat, desolate land, destroyed everything in the Dahi in Lebanon and Beirut. Then they did the genocide in Gaza, and now they're back in Lebanon to do it again, and in parts of Iran they're going to do it as well, to just destroy as much as they can and create fragmentation and tension within the countries. They want the existing countries, Syria, Lebanon, to fragment and break up into smaller pieces that they can control.
I mean, an Israeli official just a few days ago said that what they will do to southern Lebanon is what we have seen in Gaza, as you mentioned, flatten there. But has this been normalized, perhaps, somewhat, Israel's tactics here of what it does, how it decimates land, how it perhaps, its occupation with its history of its occupation? Do you think the international community is doing enough? Because Israel has been accused by the international courts of human rights abuses. It is also talked about, in fact, the fact that this is the International Court of Justice. It's ruled that Israel's self-defense didn't justify occupying Gaza. Are we seeing that happening now with southern Lebanon?
We are, and I'll tell you what the reason is, Sarah, is that before Israel did the genocide in Gaza and destroyed human life in Gaza to a large extent, it also carried out a genocide with the United States against international law and human rights protections and civilized norms of how states behave with each other and civilians are protected. Israel and the United States, with a few others helping out in Europe, some of the racist, apartheid-loving colonial countries, they destroyed international law. And this is the consequence. Israel can now do anything it wants, anywhere it wants in the Middle East and get away with it, because there's no mechanism left to either check what it's doing or to hold it accountable. But what they're actually doing is stuff they've done for, 70, 80, 90 years. Even before the State of Israel was created, the Zionist movements went around doing ethnic cleansing, torture, assassinations. They killed European officials. They killed Arab officials. So there's nothing that new. What is new is the pushback against it, the resistance of Hamas, the resistance of Hezbollah, the resistance of Iran, and the successes that they're having in limited areas. We don't know how this Iran and Lebanon and now the Ansarullah and Yemen are involved. We don't know where this is going to end up. They might all be defeated and Israel would dominate the whole region possibly. Or what seems to be more likely is that the technological prowess that Iran and Hezbollah and others have developed has allowed them to blunt the advantage of the military technology that the U.S. and Israel have. And you see it in Hezbollah's performance, you see it in the Iranian performance, So we're at a really, really delicate, important, critical moment in this wider confrontation. In Lebanon, you see Hezbollah using rocket-propelled grenades against tanks. You see them using artillery. You see them using missiles that are well targeted. And one missile reached near Gaza in southern Israel. Another one reached near Haifa.
Right.
They used to just attack the north part of Israel. Now they're
widening.
These are the new.
They're widening their network, let's say, of attacks there, Hezbollah is. Now, I just wanted to reference, we were talking about accountability. Some perhaps countries aren't held accountable. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is wanted for genocide, for war crimes. He's still able to carry out this war and he's still in power. But there are reports that come out, and one of them, for example, is Human Rights Watch. This was in March the 9th, and it says Israel unlawfully is using white phosphorus. Now, of course, this was used by the Americans. We remember back in Iraq, in Fallujah, it was used in Syria. What are your concerns moving forward for Lebanon when you see the type of tactics that Israel is using, when you see the displacement, when you see perhaps there could be potential for civil war? What are your concerns and what do you think will happen?
My concerns is that human life will become so difficult because of what Israel is doing with American support and French support. And the Lebanese army is deliberately kept weak by the Israeli, American, French positions that ordinary people will get so desperate, and understandably so, after many years of being displaced and destruction and fighting and the airport closing. And I've lived through 40 years of this in Lebanon, that they will just say, look, just anything you want, we'll do it and stop the war. And this is the great fear, but it's also the aim that Israel wants, is to have Lebanon collapse in desperation into a bunch of small little statelets that become vassal states to mother country Israel. This is not going to be allowed to happen by virtually the entire people in the Arab region, and now with Iran helping them, I think the Turks would not allow this to happen as well, and many other people. But that's my fear. My fear is that the limits to human endurance will push people to accept their dehumanization through political subjugation by the Israelis. They've tried this before, the Israelis, and it hasn't worked. They're going to try it one more time, even in a more radical, desperate, severe, and savage form. And they're going to use all kinds of fancy weapons, and they're going to keep, they did in Gaza what they're now doing in Lebanon. They're telling millions of people to get out of your homes and move and get out, and they're going to restrict the area where people can live. That's my fear. But I think the counterforce to that is what's going on in the battlefield, where the Israelis and Americans are feeling some limits to what they can do. And so this is a dynamic that is, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your thoughts there, Rami Khouri.
Thank you, Sarah.